Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever wondered how these massive companies, the ones with hundreds of software teams, can build really complex features without everything just descending into total chaos? Well, there's a concept for that, and it's called the architectural runway. It's kind of the secret sauce for moving fast and staying stable. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it works.
This quote from James Coplian, it really hits the nail on the head. We all know Agile is about speed and flexibility, right? But what happens when you've got dozens of teams all moving at top speed? Well, without just a little bit of planning, that speed can turn into chaos really, really fast. And that is the core problem we're talking about today.
All right, first up, let's dig into what we call Agile's scaling problem. That whole build-as-you-go mindset, it's absolutely brilliant for a single team, but when you try to scale it up to an entire organization, things can get, well, messy.
So Agile's core idea of emergent design, where the architecture kind of evolves as you build, is super powerful for small teams, no doubt. But when you scale up, if that's the only thing you do, you can run into some serious trouble. You end up with no consistent standards, components that can't talk to each other, and a system that's an absolute nightmare to maintain. You're basically building yourself into a corner one sprint at a time.
Which, leads to the million-dollar question for any big company out there. How do you actually plan for the future without killing the very agility that makes you great in the first place? How do you steer the ship without just parking it in dry dock?
And this is where the architectural runway comes in. The name itself is just a perfect metaphor. It's the solid, prepared ground that you build ahead of time so your feature teams can take off nice and smoothly, instead of, trying to build an airplane while paving the runway at the exact same time. In simple terms, the runway is all that technical groundwork, the code, the infrastructure, all the services that you need to have in place to support the features that are coming out. Now, the key phrase here is near term. This isn't some 5-year master plan set in stone. It's about looking just a little bit down the road to prevent some major headaches later on.
Now, what makes this whole runway concept so powerful is that it's a brilliant balancing act. It doesn't just toss out Agile's bottoms-up emergent design. It actually fuses it with a top-down intentional architecture. So you get the creative freedom for teams to build what's needed right now, but with the guardrails of a plan that makes sure everything actually works together.
And the name itself has this fantastic origin story. The creators of SAFe saw that at the end of a big planning period, what they call a program increment, or PI, teams would be scrambling to finish their work. It felt like they were trying to land an airplane on a runway that was just way too short. They couldn't land the PI safely. And just like that, the metaphor was born.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how does this runway actually get built? Who's out there laying down all this pavement?
Well, the building blocks of the runway are these things called enablers. These are specific technical pieces of work that don't really deliver direct business value all on their own, but they enable future business features to be built quickly and reliably. Think of it like laying the foundation before you even think about putting up the walls.
And this foundational work is managed just like any other Agile project. It usually starts with a huge architectural initiative, right? An enabler epic. That massive epic is then broken down into smaller capabilities, which then gets sliced into features that can be done within a single planning period. And finally, those are broken down into stories that are small enough for one team to tackle in a single sprint. It's like a funnel that turns these massive technical goals into manageable, bite-sized pieces.
So for a brand new product or a major technical shift, you might see a dedicated team, often led by an architect who's acting as the product owner, and their entire job is to build that initial stretch of runway. They're the ones laying down the core infrastructure and services that all the other teams need to get started. But, and this is super important, the runway is not a one-and-done kind of project. After that initial foundation is built, maintaining it becomes a shared responsibility. Every single team that's part of that larger group, what SAFe calls an Agile release train, dedicates some of its capacity to this enabler work. It's like having a constant road maintenance crew, just making sure the path ahead is always clear. And this leads us to a really important point. The runway is never actually finished. It's a living, breathing asset that is constantly being built up and then used by the teams.
So what uses up the runway? Well, everything. Every single time a team builds a new feature, they're consuming a piece of that prepared architecture. As business needs change or some new technology pops up, the existing runway might not be good enough anymore, which means it needs new investment.
This chart here shows that cycle perfectly. So in one program increment, you might invest heavily in extending the runway, right? That's that tall bar. Then in the next PI, the teams consume that runway to deliver a flood of new features, and the runway gets shorter. Then you invest again. It's this constant rhythm of paving the road just far enough ahead of the race cars.
So, after all this technical talk, let's get down to the most important question, the so what question. Why does this runway actually matter? What's the real-world payoff here?
And here it is, the bottom line. The architectural runway is not built for architects. It's not about creating perfect, beautiful code just for the sake of it. Its one and only purpose is to clear a path so that valuable features can get to customers faster and more reliably. That's it.
By having this runway in place, you remove all those technical roadblocks before they become five-alarm fires. And this allows your teams to focus on what they do best, delivering features that customers actually want, faster and with way higher quality. It really is the key to getting both speed and stability at scale.
So we'll leave you with a question to take back to your own organization. Think about the big features you have planned for the next few months. Now think about the technology needed to actually support them. How long is your runway? Is it long enough to land your next big objective safely? It's a critical question to ask. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.